Welcome to The Advocate, a program that thrashes out all the topical issues of the day.
When you are in government, you don't see nothing wrong with whatever is happening. The moment you are out there, everything is wrong.
You can't even see many women now, and when they're there, they're not even really making a mark, and then they have an NYSC problem and this and that.
One of the reasons why we don't have more women in politics in Nigeria is for as long as political meetings continue to take place in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
Really?
Disastrous for a president
To even say
to be
he's
unaware of the chief
It's
justice.
a ploy. It could be a strategy.
That strategy was very
Backfired.
terrible strategy. Because the buck stops at your table.
Whether it's that we don't look after our cities, and quite frankly, Nigeria is becoming a very ugly place.
When you are the only one feeding the people with this news, and there is nobody countering them, it becomes, the news.
You're watching The Advocate on Plus TV Africa. They say a stitch in time saves 9. To this end, today I'll be talking about why we need sex education taught in Nigerian schools. I was surprised to learn that sex education is yet to become part of the Nigerian school curriculum. In an age when children are continually exposed to sexual content from a very early age, it makes no sense that sex education is still very much taboo in our schools. It worries me that our children have been left to navigate their way through this highly sexually charged world without the knowledge and tools with which to do so. In conservative religious countries such as Nigeria, it is expected that sex education is the responsibility of the parents and therefore should be taught at home. However, from the numerous discussions I have had concerning this subject, it appears this isn't the case. Our children get their information or misinformation from their friends, television, magazines, and the internet. This is why I believe age-appropriate sex education classes need to be taught in all schools. Teenagers have all manners of hormones coursing through their veins, and this makes them want to explore and experiment. If they're going to participate in sexual activity, isn't it better that they know all the risks and consequences that go with sex? Sometimes children have a hard time talking to their parents about sex. I know I would, as it can be awkward and uncomfortable for all involved. By having a sex education class in school, they'll be able to hear it from an outside source, possibly making it easier for them to engage in the conversation and provoke them to ask questions. Sexual activity is always going to be around, and it's important that all students learn, or all children, shall I say, learn about the risks and consequences of having sex. And this can be best achieved, as far as I'm concerned, through schools.
I like the way you added as far as I'm concerned. In case written now challenges you.
And I have to say something. There's a large part that I agree with, because for me, sex education should be a given anyway. It's a given. And I do agree that it needs to be a partnership between school and home. Right. However, what I don't agree is that it's the school that should teach it. I agree that it should be part of the curriculum. Having said that, my biggest issue is, and I still say, in Nigeria, parents have a habit of franchising their responsibility over to the school because they're embarrassed. And number one. Number two is we have an issue with calling things what they are. In a country where we call the vagina pee-pee, and we call the penis pee-pee, how are you going to be able to talk to your child about reproductive organs? If the thing about sex education is most people often foolishly think it's about sex. Actually, it's not.
No.
Yeah.
It's about owning your own body. It's about the comfort of self. It's about knowing your body and knowing how to use it, how to know. Thank you. And that's what we need to teach. And I just find it disturbing that if a parent can't do that, should there really be a parent?
That's extreme.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, but let me say,
I understand why parents.
Where did that child come from?
Yeah, I understand why parents would find it difficult to want to treat that subject with their children, and vice versa, actually. So it is. I honestly believe that the schools could do it. But I just don't know if in Nigeria, at least, with all our conservatism and all that, are we going to get enough teachers? Do you think
schools alone should be doing it, or both?
No,
I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
No, she's not saying schools alone. I'm just saying
but
that
schools should really
be taught in schools.
I think it really ought to be taught in schools, really well. And that does not mean the parent shouldn't do anything, but just in case the parent does nothing, I really think that in school you must be taught.
The school is not going to be the grandmother or grandfather.
No, let me come in a way. I sort of agree with the Reti in the sense that, I really think this is something parents need to handle. They need to own this one. And I'm suspicious when schools start teaching something like this anyway. But I'll give you an illustration because I knew you were going to talk about this. And, I was sitting down in the living room and on one of the news channels, they started talking about menstruation. And I was like, oh gosh, these two girls here in my house, I've never spoken to them about their period. One is 9, one is going to be 11, and she's going to secondary school. So I took the opportunity as they were watching, wondering what's going on. I'm like, have they taught you anything about, and then we started talking. And of course, now if the schools had done a biology lesson, it would have been easier, but it was okay. We had to explain it, So I think it's useful as a platform just to give them the outline, but parents need to really brave up and teach them.
Be the leader in the teaching.
The area I feel, and I wish, if we could rewind, I would have had, and this is not to say my mom didn't do her best, is to say I wish there was more instruction about don't feel intimidated about, getting into a sexual relationship. Don't feel, because about society bullies you almost that you're abnormal if you don't want to. Be bold enough to go against.
If you look at a boy, you'll get pregnant.
So be bold enough to own your sexuality and to say no. That's really what I wish.
That's what you want.
I think it goes back to the first topic with debated. There's this religious, cultural criminalization of sex. Anything to do with our bodies, is wrong. And that's sort of carried over. So we see even people who are sexual or who, we see there's something pernicious, something dirty, something dirty, something taboo.
But that could be because it's often abused as well.
Yeah, well, I think it's more from a religious angle,
abuse
to be
stems
honest.
from the fact where you hide it, where you're not discussing it.
Yes.
Because you talked about it. It's about our health. It's about our bodies. And I think we should. There's nobody who. Your being, how you came to be is from that activity itself. So you cannot suddenly now, want to
shy away,
appropriate it that is only for when you have. And the reality is that it happens with or without your knowing.
Yes,
so
and
you might as well, take responsibility, take ownership of it, and have the discussion. I know it can be, again, from that cultural background, it can be difficult. I've got a daughter who's 14.
Yeah, I was going to ask, have you had that conversation with her?
I've tried.
Okay.
And this is what she
for
said
even
to
trying.
Me. She said to me, Dad, we went out, we went out for some food and drinks, and started the topic.
Set the stage.
And she said to me, I know about these things.
Exactly.
I like her.
They will know before you come.
So I asked her, I said, from where?
You try not to sound surprised.
I was trying, and she said, from school, and then mom.
Excellent. The mother has already done the job. And that brings me on to...
And I think, so I have my own responsibility. It's my son.
She's taking the girl, you take the boy.
So, I think we need to, as a society, we need to decriminalize.
Make it normal.
It happens.
Yes.
Everyone continue to happen.
Exactly.
So we shouldn't make it appear as if something is just essentially at the first instance is bad. The sex is bad.
So
you always find that sex is because that's the way people see it.
Which you are.
Sex is bad.
Yes.
Bad.
Yeah.
No, because
like I said, imagine being mother to a boy, which I am, which Uche is.
Calling the uncles.
You've had the convo.
And people have often asked me, and I get asked this question quite, and I'm happy to answer. When did you start having a conversation with your son? And actually, I did an interview in the newspaper, and it was blown up. Cecilia said she started talking to her son from age 7. Actually, I did. And people ask me, why such an age? And I said, when the time is right for each child. Each child is different. How did I know? It's a funny story. I come into the house with a friend of mine. We'd been out to dinner, male. And then I see his hands in his pants. And I'm like, darling, get your hands out of there. What's going on? He said, it's tickly. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, time to have that talk.
I know this
so
very well.
I did that talk, and I called his dad, Oi, need to talk to your son. Time to have it. But since then, we've been very open. And incidentally, when you talk about the health, that's actually where I wanted to come. most boys are actually not born with 2 testicles. Most people don't know that. I happen.
One drops later.
One drops later. So, of course, we mothers, we check everything now. Fathers often know, but we mothers, we check everything to make sure it's all complete. Yeah. Notice that my son didn't have 2.
So, see, I'm even laughing, and it shouldn't be. I should be like,
yeah, but no,
is he going to watch this?
You haven't laughed.
So he's going to watch this now.
Yeah,
this child, like,
I know,
right? So no, but it's important to know this, and so I noticed I had, and the doctor said to me, "Don't worry, it'll drop later." So of course, how am I going to know if it drops? So I said to my son, "Look, always touch it. Let me know when it comes down." So one day it comes down. It comes down. It's like, "Mommy, yes, it's come down." I'm like, "Yes, where to?" We had
You're ridiculous.
such a
Private joke.
It's comfortable. Now he's used to checking it. Because that testicular cancer, most men don't check. So this is why it needs to be about owning and being comfortable with your body. My son thinks I'm crazy, but he'll appreciate it.
No, I think you're definitely
does.
on the right track. But the reason I had to bring it up was because I noticed that parents, when they are faced with it, they don't actually handle it properly. They give it the wrong names, like some even tell them, "Don't look at a boy, you get pregnant," which is just totally misleading. Many of them won't even tell them exactly how it goes. Whereas if it's learned in school, they're not going to be telling them any of that nonsense.
I think the school needs to teach the parents how to do
it. Yeah, exactly. Well, that was instructive. Parents and stakeholders, you've been alerted, so shine your eye. Ekena gives us a Father's Day teaser after the break. Stay with us.